All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to go over a couple of the assignments that were not on the second video that you will see. I did learn when we were about halfway through that it did not record, so I'm recording again to make sure that everyone understands how to do the pretest as well as the figuring of birthdays and chronological age practice, okay? Everything that you see in Module 1 for Course 3 is has today's date on it, February 27th, and there's nothing to upload or nothing as an assignment, but I do want you to follow me through what I'm going to show you today because it will be seen and utilized inside of your case study. That is one of your big projects for this course. Essentially, the case study is a report, a gifted report of the assessments compiled for a gifted student. And there'll be 3 components to a narrative that you have to actually write. And the other portion of the case study is basically a checklist of items that have to be with your narrative. That basically back up what you're saying in your narrative, all right, so to speak. Now, let's actually start with looking at, let me share my screen here. All right, let's look at share. Okay. All right. There are 11 modules. Don't let module 11 scare you because honestly, all it is to make sure it's a reminder to make sure you turn your book in by May 5th. And either I need it or the secretary at RESA needs it no later than May 5th. All right. And that's basically like an incomplete or complete kind of grade. All right. That will be there for that to make sure that we have your book back. So don't worry about module 11. Module 1, we're going to cover tonight. Module 2, 3, 4, as you can see, are chapter reviews or either article reviews on these, or literature reviews, excuse me. And module 5 is the case study itself, as well as another article, chapter review. And module 6 is another literature review plus another scavenger hunt. It's the only one that has 2 assignments that are due that day. And both of them are actually due on April 3rd, which for Grady County teachers, that is right before your spring break. So right at the beginning of spring break. So make sure that you get some of the assignments done ahead of time or either during spring break as well. I promise I did not have any say so on that. It just kind of happened that way. But module 7, there is not an assignment. As you can see, there are no point values. There is a due date, but during that week, you're to look at these items. Module 8 is another scavenger hunt with some questions and answers from the resource manual online. And module 9, we actually did break course 3 up a little bit compared to courses 1 and 2. I know in course 2, it was kind of confusing a little bit when we put together as one assignment, the technology toolbox and the field experience log. So we broke those apart again, just to make it a little bit easier for uploading purposes. But your technology toolbox, remember, this is uploaded. You have from course 1, you have 10 websites that you had given us. Course 2, you added to those 10 for 11 through 20. And then course 3 is 21 through 30. All right, so that one document should have 30 items for your rubric. All right. And the field experience log is a little bit different this time. It needed to be updated. We actually changed the 3rd column. It is not like the one that you got signed off from your gifted mentor in course 2. So under this one, you would need to actually upload that course 1 and 2 log, as well as this new log as a separate document, okay? And if you'll notice, your mentor will have to sign off on the dates of when you actually complete these items. And you won't complete them at the same times or the same date. So this should not have the same date all the way down, all right? It should be as you gather your items, all right? So think of it like that, because you have from now until May 1st to complete and finish all of these 23 hours. So altogether, this does create the 40 hours that was needed for the course. Now, let's go to, now that we've talked about the modules a little bit, I'm going to collapse these and just talk about Module 1. Now, you'll notice Module 1 has a lot of stuff. Well, it's really not. The vocabulary has been in Course 1 and Course 2. These are the same terms. You may have already printed these out. If you have not printed them out, go ahead and do so, please, now, because you will utilize these on the final exam. Some of these terms you need to know. Some of these terms you will be using in your case study. So please take the time to look through these and find that you will utilize some of these terms too. All right, speaking of the terms, we're going to be doing a pretest in a few minutes too on and actually talk about some of those terms. But before that, there's a page here that says general traits. Page 1 actually comes from Course 1 and 2. This was found in Course 1 and 2 as well. So these are some just general traits of gifted children. Some of these you may need or could use in your case study, all right, as information for your narrative. So make sure that you download all 3 pieces or pages of these and see if it will help you. That's why it's here. We want you to utilize those things and to put it in your case study, because it's being used through courses 1, 2, and 3. So everything you've been doing all year long, this is your final product, so to speak. Now, pretest Course 3, vocabulary. This is a document that we've uploaded that has it's a fill in the blank, all right? And on this document, it has some vocabulary down at the bottom, such as norm sample, mean, median, mode, range, standard deviation, grade equivalent score, normal curve, percentile rank, confidence interval, normed reference, criterion referenced, standard area of measure, validity in regard to content, and of course reliability. Now, some of these terms may be familiar to all of you, all right, or some of them may be familiar, but you never have really had to use them, all right, possibly. Well, in regard to gifted assessment testing, you will see these terms in and around the norming process, in and around percentile ranking, using all the different types of testing assessments and so forth that are found here in this course. So let me do one thing. I'm going to actually stop sharing for a moment and share my screen a different way. I'm going to use a document camera real quick. And I'll tell you what, before I do that, let me go back. Get it to where I need it. Share. Okay. All right. We're going to, I think I have one of these that are empty. Okay. Now I'm going to share this through the document camera. There we go. Okay. All right. Hopefully you can see this, and you can download and print this out as well. Let's see if I can get a little closer here, a little clearer. That's going off of my page a little bit, but all right, let's start at the top. And let's see if I'll do these quickly. All right, since I did this with my other teachers a minute ago and it didn't record, I'll do this one fairly quicker a little bit here. The first one, the extent to which a test measures what it is intended to measure, is actually called validity. All right. In regard to content, especially, it's the content that's on the test, all right, in which it measures. All right, number 2, this type of test measures a student's performance in terms of mastery level. And this one is actually criterion referenced. All right, criterion referenced. Number 3, this is a graph with standard scores that have the same number for the mean, median, and mode. And if they're the same numbers, it's going to be a normal curve. All right. Let's go to number 4. This type of test compares a student's performance on the test to the performance of his or her age peers. All right. And if they're comparison, they're always going to be a normed reference. All right. Normed reference test. All right. Number 5. The middle score in a group of scores is called the median. Number 6. The range of scores within each, a person's true score will fall within a given probability. Number 6 will be that confidence interval. It's basically that range of scores. All right. And number 7, the estimated amount of each type of error associated with true scores is considered that standard error of measure. All right. And number 8, scores that indicate the percentage of students whose scores are at or below a given raw score is a percentile rank. And a lot of this, number 8, you will be covering and seeing in the gifted realm. All right, number 9. In a group of scores, the one most often seen is, of course, the mode. All right. And number 10 refers to the average score earned by a child at a particular grade level on a specific test is considered the grade equivalent score. I can spell today. It's the one that they basically had scored at that level, at that grade level. All right, number 11, the extent to which a person is likely to receive the same score or rating if tested again on the same instrument would be reliability. All right, number 12, the distance from the highest score to the lowest score is, of course, the range. 13, the numerical average of a group of scores is the mean. And 14, the unit of measurement that indicates how much a score deviates from the mean is your standard deviation. And 15, a group of subjects of known characteristics, which is the age, grade, and sex, to whom a person's performance may be compared to, is the norm sample. All right. We actually do a local norm sample, basically using our Renzulli here in Grady County for the motivation category. All right. That is your pre-test. You will see some of these same exact definitions possibly on your final exam. So that's one reason why we're giving it to you tonight and going over the answers with you. This can actually be also found online and downloaded. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment and show you where. All right. And let me go back to my other screen and share. Now, if I go back to pre-test, you will see, nope, not pre-test. Yeah, all right, pre-test. So that is where, of course, we just continued this. All right, so now let's talk about eligibility. Now, Georgia's Department of Education gifted evaluation and eligibility discussion information is here. There are 4 different links. Excuse me, the first one is the gifted eligibility chart, which is basically our gifted Bible. All right, this chart is in reference to option A and option B and how students can actually how they can be seen. And I'm going to have to make sure that did I record again? Let me stop sharing. Yes, I am recording. Okay. All right. I was making sure. It scared me again. Am I recording again? Okay. Let me go back where I was. Sorry about that. Okay. Now, the gifted evaluation chart. This right here. Option A and option B. First of all, it says information shall be gathered in each of the 4 categories. When you test for gifted, you must test in every category. There are 4 of them: mental ability, achievement, creativity, and motivation. All right. Regardless of option A and B, you'll notice the 2 columns. These 2 columns are almost empty. All right. But it does say evaluation data required. Okay. So they may not make it in those 2 areas with certain percentiles, but it wouldn't matter because they made the percentiles for mental ability and achievement though. And let's talk about those. K2, which is kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade, the percentiles needed for a composite score on a mental ability test is 99. All right, that seems high, but it has to be there. All right, and for grades 3 through 12, it has to be a 96 or higher on a composite score. All right, that's for option A. Now in option B for mental ability, it says K-12, you can have 96 percentile composite, just like it was over here for grades 3 through 12, or a 96 percentile on a component score on a national aged normed mental ability test. Let me talk about that for example. Composite will be a C. Well, you'll see the letter C when I show you the mock information scores. All right, that I'm going to give you. All right, in a little while. But you'll also see something called V, Q, and N. All right, verbal, quantitative, and nonverbal. Those are component scores. All right, you can also have different varieties of those. You could have verbal, nonverbal. You could have quantitative and nonverbal together as well. So, but those are component scores. A composite score is basically everything together. All right, it is a composite of all 3 of those. All right. Now, achievement, going to the next one, has to be 90 percentile in total reading and total math, or a complete battery, or a complete score, which basically the reading and math together, sort of like a composite would be for mental ability. On option B, grades K through 12, 90% total reading and total math on the complete battery. Or you can actually do what is called a product performance score. And locally, that has to be done at your district level, your local district level. You have to decide on a performance assessment that you would utilize. And you would follow the lead on or from your superior, your gifted superiors at the State Department. Ms. Mary Jean Banter and Ms. Lisa Hackney are 2 of those individuals that would help you with the superior product performance assessments. Creativity, as you'll notice, is not necessarily an option A requirement here, but you do have to complete a creativity assessment, and it must be on the eligibility report. In option B, to qualify here, it needs to be 90 percentile on the composite score. You can use a rating scale, but if you use the rating scale for creativity, you cannot use a scale for motivation, and definitely can't use the same scales. Okay. You can also use a superior product as well, but I would not utilize it in more than one spot. All right. For motivation, same thing here. I'm going to actually skip down to grades K through 12. You can use a rating scale to qualify, and it must equate to the 90 percentile. And you can also do a product performance here as well, as long as you didn't prior to on any of the other categories. But in grades 6 through 12, you must have a 2-year average of a 3.5 GPA on a 4.0 scale in core subject areas of math, English, social studies, science, and any of your full year world language courses. And a lot of that information can be found specifically on page 30 of your manual. And that might have changed because this actual chart, it is dated 2013, so it's almost 10 years old. But all of this information has not changed. All right, it is on regardless of years. All right, it has stayed the same. And that is your chart. Now, the actual process of gifted testing is on this chart, the next one. You would, in step 1, you would have 2 options: a reported referral, which could be from a teacher, a parent, a peer, a self referral, or you could have an automatic referral. And an automatic referral would come from those norm reference tests using those vocabulary terms we just talked about. And your local Board of Education there at your district would establish which score would need to be the cutoff score for your automatic referrals, whether you're using MAP testing, Acadience testing, whatever you're using as an automatic referral. If it's high school related, it could be the SAT, PSAT. It just depends on what you're looking at as your cutoffs for automatic referrals. When you get to step 2, this is when you have your eligibility team meeting and you talk about the documentation that's been given to the team. They gather more information if needed. If nothing's needed, you continue on. And if you say this child does not need to be tested, they would continue on in their regular education classrooms. If they do need to be tested, excuse me, you would go here to the left and you would do your formal evaluation and actually test the student in all 4 of the areas for gifted and mental ability, achievement, creativity, and motivation. And then, of course, you would move on down. If you find that the child is eligible within option A or option B, if they're eligible, the eligibility team basically reviews the recommendations and a letter gets home to parents and so forth in regard to services that can be rendered at your particular or in your particular county. If they are not eligible, then of course you would definitely need to let parents know as well of the results and so forth, and continue following up if needed. And let's see what else is here under on this. All right, now this one is the same thing as the first chart that I showed you, that has option A and option B, but this is a little bit differently written. Same information, okay? Don't get confused here, but it's just written a little differently. Option A, there are 2 ways, all right? And option B, as you can see, is the remainder part of the chart. Because there's so much in option B, this is a different way to kind of look at it that may help, okay? If you'll notice too that when you talk about products and performances, you cannot do a product or performance for mental ability. All right, it's just not allowed. And rating scales can be used in creativity and motivation. All right, it's just a different way to kind of look at it, but just a chart to show you. All right, and I got out of that. And the 4th one, yes, all right, the 4th one is one that you will not have access to every single year. Your district gifted coordinator will have access to this, and it's given to it normally, or given to that person normally in the fall of the year, and they are approved every single year. They change constantly. We uploaded this year's for you to see and to understand what we mean by that concept. This was done in September, as you can see. I'm not going to read every single thing here to you, but you can see like the cognitive test, the COGAT, forms 7 and 8 are on this, so they are approved tests. You can use the composite, which is the verbal, quantitative, and nonverbal, or you can use partial composite scores, or you can use the verbal, quantitative, and nonverbal component scores. As you can see, The partial composites can be counted as component scores since they are not complete composite scores. All right. So keep in mind that, and there are different, of course, languages that you can utilize. If it is not listed here, you cannot use it. All right. There's another one called InView. There's another one, the Kaufman or the KBIT. The Naglieri we actually use here in Grady County as well. You can use the composite score for that one, and the Tony is available. Now, these actually must be administered by a licensed psychologist. So if it is not on this list, they cannot issue it. I myself, as a district gifted coordinator, cannot give these tests. Only a psychologist can issue these tests. If you have that in your county and available, you can certainly utilize that if needed. Achievement, as I said before, such as like the SAT or PSAT, the ACT can be used for achievement, especially at the secondary level. The DAB4 can be used. Iowa forms E, F, and G. The Iowa survey could be used as long as you use the total national percentile rank. By Ramos, and the MAP. We actually use MAP here in Grady County as well as parts of the Iowa. The Iowa is normally a second measure if needed. iReady can be used. STAR can be used. The PSAT percentile could be used. All this is for achievement. SAT, the Stanford 10 can be used. The Kaufman, of course, and so forth. And there are a variety of things here. And some are updated, some are have not been used. If you'll notice this too, the Terra Nova was taken off the list, and now it says the embargo on this has been lifted. So you can actually use the reading and math portions of the Terra Nova. But before we were not allowed to because it was being utilized on milestones, all right, for some of the questions. So now it's been lifted. So they're saying that it is okay to utilize now. Creativity. There are several here. The profile of creative abilities. Notice too, that's what's highlighted. Sometimes we have things that are removed. As you can see, year to be removed is 2023. So we as gifted coordinators have to make sure that we don't reorder a version if we've used it prior to. The Torrance test is here. The gifted evaluation scale is here. Gifted, there are a couple of scales there that are different companies, the Gates and the GES. The gifted rating scales are labeled here. The P is normally for kindergarten. The S is for first grade. It is to be considered to be removed in 2024. So, and we here in Grady County do utilize that for kindergarten, first grade. So we'll have to be looking at something else to use for those two categories a little later. Scales for identifying students, the SIGS 2 or the scales known as the Renzulli could be utilized for creativity as well. All right, motivation, we've got GPA, of course, for grades 6 through 12. And remember, that's an average of 2 years. The CAMI is actually being removed. Gifted evaluation scale could be utilized here for motivation scale if you haven't already used a scale for your creativity piece. And the scales and product observation pieces can be used here too. There's even another universal screener, Beacon is what it's called. That's a new one that's kind of coming out as well. All right, and let's see, that is this portion of eligibility. Now, let's actually figure birthdays. This is a little exercise that we like to do to show you how to determine a person's birth date. Okay, and really this is what you do is the day of testing. It is needed because of your the norming process, and we would have to know the year and the month that the child was born. And when you go to your norms, this is important to be able to find the percentile rank that is the correct one for that child, depending on age and the month of the year and the month of that child being tested. So it is very important. Let me do something a little bit different here. I'm going to stop my sharing. and then share a little bit differently. Go to the advanced tab and content from my camera. And let me see if I can share this with you. All right, I want to do a couple of these. It's a little bit of math, all right, but I want to share this with you so you know exactly what we would need to do. This is going to be part of your final exam, all right? You will have some of these to complete on the exam. So we need to make sure that you know how to do them appropriately. Now, these are the instructions, and you can read through these, but let me show you what to do. You always keep the test date on top, but you need to put a couple of things in order. For example, if this was our first question, it says the test date is March 4th, 2009. The student's birthday is actually 12/28/98. All right, so we're looking for the chronological age of the child. All right. Now, in regard to norming, in regard to our norming process, but if you will put the year first, all right, so year is here. All right, and then I'm going to put the month and then the day. All right, so the year is here, the month is 3, and the day is 4. All right, then I'm going to actually put the student's birth date underneath this. All right, so 1998, 12, and then 28 is the day. All right, now I'm going to do some subtracting. Okay, you can't subtract 28 from 4. So what I'm going to do is actually come over here and borrow a month or the day, 30 days of a month. Okay, so this becomes 2, but I've got to add 30 days to my 4. All right, so this becomes 34. All right, I'm going to subtract that, and that becomes 6. Okay, so now you can't subtract 12 from 2, so I'm going to actually take away a year. All right, so this becomes 2008, but there are 12 months in a year, so I'm going to plus 12. All right, so 2 plus 12 is 14, and I'm going to subtract that, so that would be 2. All right, and then 2008 minus 1998 would be 10. Okay, so therefore, this child is 10 years, 2 months, and 6 days. Okay, on that day of testing. All right, if this is the day I tested the child, that is exactly the chronological age right here, okay, for that child on that date. And this is what I would use. You don't use the days. You would only use the years and months for the norming process of what you would plug in on your charts. And we'll get into all that a little later. All right. One thing to also think about, and we'll do it in this next one, I believe, is to look at the number of days. If the number is 15 or higher, round up to the next month. For example, if the age is 9 years, 5 months, and 16 days, the correct age is 9.6 years. So honestly, we had 6 days. If this would have been 16 days, it would have been 10 years and 3 months because it was more than 15. All right, let's do another one. All right, for the next one, let's do our chart. 2020 or 2009, 12, and 23. And the birth date, 1995, 7, and 3. All right, I'm going to subtract. That's an easy one. 20. I'm going to subtract. That's an easy one. 5. And subtract an easy one. That's 14. All right, so this one would be 14 days, or excuse me, 14 years, 5 months, and 20 days. All right, but remember what we just said. All right, if it's 15 or higher, we have to add a month. So this one is more than 15. So this child would actually be considered 14 years, 6 months. All right, so you had to add a month. All right, now the next item down on our list was this piece of paper. I thought I had a copy of it. I don't, so let me stop sharing for a moment and go back and show you what I'm talking about. All right, share screen, basic screen, share. All right, now when we get to this is where we are now. Let's go back. All right, birthday example. That's what I just shared with you a moment ago. Okay, it's a handwritten one there that is done for you. All right, so we've done all of this so far. All right, figuring chronological age. Now, this is the practice worksheet we're about to do together. All right, and I'm going to download it. These are the answers. All right, don't look yet until we go through it together so you can make sure your answers are correct. Okay, but this is the sheet that that I want you to bring up. If you want to print it out, go ahead and print it out. I'm going to print me a copy that I did not have another copy. I want to show you real quick. All right. And while that's printing, I'm going to get back to my document camera. All right. And share advanced content from second camera. And here we go. All right, let's do these together. All right, because this is going to be on your final exam. You will have several questions like these on your exam. So you need to know how to calculate them. All right. So let's do a few of these. All right. The first one. All right. Just as we did the other two. All right. So I'm going to put 2021, 2/5 for February 15th. All right. And then 2009, July is 7th month, and 4. All right, is the day. All right, so you can easily subtract. That will be 11. All right, you can't subtract 2 from 7, so you're going to have to borrow. All right, so I'm going to take a year. That'll make it 2020 plus 12, because that's the 12 months. That makes 14. All right, minus 7 is 7. And then 2020 minus 2009 is, of course, 11. So this child will be 11 years, 7 months, and 11 days. Okay. If you had to report it, it would be 11 years and 7 months. Okay. The next one is 2022, 9, and then 8. All right. 2007, 10, and 25. All right. You can't subtract 8 from or 25 from 8, so you have to borrow. So that becomes 8, and this is plus 30, remember, for the days of the month. This is the days column, okay? So this becomes 38 minus 25, which would be 13. All right, you can't subtract 10 from 8, so we're going to have to take one of these. That becomes 2021 plus 12. That's the 12 months of the year that you took. So 8 plus 12 is, of course, 20. All right. So 20 minus 10 is 10. And then 2021 minus 2007 would be 14. All right. So this one would be 14 years, 10 months, and 13 days. Okay. All right, the next one, number 3. All right, which is actually a fairly recent date. All right, when testing. So, and be familiar with that too, because your tests are only good for 2 years. So anything prior to 2021, you need to be paying attention to, because it cannot be used as a good score, all right, or an accurate or qualifying score. All right, you would have to use the score that now, when testing, you would have to use. All right, so now on this one, you would have 2023, 1 for January, and then 8 for the day. 2016, 3, and then 15. Of course, you can't subtract, so we're going to have to take this one. That becomes 0, actually. And this would be plus 30 for the month that you took. All right, that makes it 38. So subtract 38 from 15 from 38, and you would get 23. All right, can't subtract this, so I have to take a year. So that'd be 2022 plus 12. All right, which to nothing, which would be 12. So that would be 9. And then 22 minus 16 would be, of course, 6. So that's 6 years, 9 months, and 23 days. Now, if you recall, though, more than 15 days, you have to add a month. So this is actually 6 years and 10 months, all right, because it's more than 15 days. All right. Now, 2 more. 2022. April is 4. All right, and then 11. And then our birth date of 2012, 11, lots of 11s. Okay. All right. So obviously minus this will be 0. All right. You can't subtract 11 from 4, so you have to take a year. All right. So you plus 12, add those together at 16. Minus that would be 5. All right. So 21 minus 12 is, of course, 9. So that would be 9 years, 5 months, and 0 days. All right, you could write it out if you wanted to. You wouldn't even have to put that. Okay. All right, and the last one more, 2022, 8 and 30, August 30th. All right, and then I would put 2008, and then June is 6, 14. All right, so then I would put, of course, subtract, that's 16. 8 minus 6 is 2. 22 minus 2018 would be, of course, 2008 would be 14. All right. So on this one, we have 14 years, 2 months, and 16 days. But be careful, remember, it's more than 15. All right. So this will be 14 years and 3 months. All right, will be what you would report. All right, fairly simple, and I hope that helps everyone. All right, these answers are also found, all right, on your, let me show you that real quick. These are found under figuring chronological age. All right, here are your answers. All right, that are listed here too. All right, and the 0.5. And remember, this is a different way of reporting. I actually wrote out the years, month, and day so you could see, but this is basically 10 years, 7 months, 14 years, 10 months, 6 years, 10 months, 9 months, or excuse me, 9 years and 5 months, and then 14 and 3 months. All right. So it can be found there. If you have any questions or need some extra help, let me know. The next thing is the case study, and I believe that it can be, it's located here, but it says to go to Module 5 for the complete instructions and materials for the case study, and your instructor will guide you through each of these items. And to do that, I'm going to go to Module 5. I'm going to actually collapse all these and go to Module 5 down here. There's a literature review that you must do on March 27th, but this is also when you would begin the case study. And here are your instructions for it. You're to review the criteria. Your rubric for this can be found in Module 10. Excuse me. But you need to make sure that you come back to Module 5 for all of the information here. The updated case study instructions can be located here. And there are 2 sections. The first section is a minimum of 3 pages. Each one of these sections right here, 1, 2, and 3, must be a page each or more. You're going to find that more is probably going to happen. There are some questions and items under each one of these that you'll need to make sure you complete and have in your narrative section. The data collection section, or number 2, is, of course, sort of like a checklist. You have to make sure that you have this report there. You have to make sure you have a parental consent form there. And what you basically do is to pick a student out of your focus group that you had used for courses 1 and 2, especially in course 2. Pick a student that you would like to refer for gifted. All right. And basically do a parental consent form, do a TABS form for the child. You would provide for the mental ability, the achievement, the creativity, and the motivation scores. And to find those, you actually come back to instructions. All right. And it's the very last one under here, mock gifted testing scores to use for the case study. You would open this up. Takes a moment. All right, it's getting tired tonight. All right, and what we've provided you here is basically mental ability, achievement, and creativity scores. These are mock, they're fake, okay, they're just made up, but there's one for every grade level. Kindergarten, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, all the way to 12th grade, as you can see. All right, when I scroll very quickly. But let me kind of explain one of these. Let's just kind of pick 3rd grade, for example. This child took the mental ability test on April 10th, 2022. They took the COGAT 7, all right, level 9, which is for 3rd grade, all right. The V stands for verbal, Q is quantitative, nonverbal, and composite is the C. As you can see, 96th percentile, referencing our chart that we talked about earlier. This child would make it for the 96th percentile for a component score only, though. All right, so component score, so keep that in mind. They did a second measure score on April 16th, right after they tested mental ability. They did the Naglieri test, which is the NNAT3. Level D is for 3rd grade, and they made a 91%. And remember, mental ability has to be 96th percentile. All right. So achievement, they took the Stanford 10, primary 3, which is for 3rd grade. And their reading total scores was an 88. Math total score was an 86. It had to be a 90. All right. So creativity, this actually was done in 2023. Pay attention to your dates. These scores were last year's scores, last spring. All right. So keep in mind that, but it was a 98th percentile and they used the Torrance test. All right. The motivation scores are not listed here. All right. We're wanting you to use those items that's listed underneath this. There are several motivational rating scales that you could use. Use this with your student and find that scale score. All right. That mock or pretend percentile score, and then utilize it here. All right. All right. And there's one of the things, if you have a 6th through 12th grader, you also have this as an option to use. This is, remember, a last school year compared to current school year, you have to have an average of the 2. So this is a good sort of handout to use in regard to using that for motivation if you happen to use GPA, right, for 6th through 12th grade. You would not use the scales for that. You would use a GPA for those grade levels. All right, and I believe the next video picks up from here. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll stop sharing and end this one.